Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on notification.
Grant stood in the kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. In a house that suddenly felt too large, too meticulously organized. He held a glass of water, his knuckles white against the smooth crystal. He was a man of logistics. As a supply chain manager for a national distribution firm, his life was governed by principles, efficiency, predictability, and the elimination of variance. He knew that when a shipment was late, there was a reason. He knew that when inventory went missing, it was rarely an accident. He applied the same rigor to his marriage. Grant and Sophie had been married for 4 years. Sophie was an emergency room resident, a job defined by chaos, which usually balanced Grant's need for order. They were a team, or so the data had suggested. But tonight, the data was flawed. The front door unlocked with the heavy clack of the deadbolt. Sophie breezed in, bringing with her a gust of cool autumn air and the scent of the outside world. She looked exhausted, her scrubs slightly wrinkled, her bag hanging heavy on her shoulder. "Hey," she breathed, dropping her keys in the ceramic bowl. "Sorry I'm late. The salon was an absolute nightmare today. Monica was overbooked." Grant did not turn immediately. He took a sip of water, measuring the temperature against his tongue. He turned slowly. "You look tired." "I am." Sophie sighed, walking over to him. She leaned in for a kiss. But Grant adjusted his posture. So her lips landed on his cheek. It was a subtle rejection, one she was too distracted to notice. "I'm going to jump in the shower. I feel gross." "New polish looks good," Grant said. His voice was flat, devoid of inflection. Sophie paused. She looked down at her hands. "Thanks. Just a touch-up. Same color as last week." "Right," Grant said. "Looks fresh." She smiled. A quick, tight expression that didn't reach her eyes. And hurried up the stairs. Grant remained in the kitchen. He set the glass down on the granite counter. He closed his eyes and replayed the visual data he had just collected. Sophie claimed she had spent 2 hours at the salon. She claimed she had gotten a touch-up. However, Grant had eyes. He had observed her hands when she placed them on the counter. Yesterday morning, there had been a distinct chip on the thumb of her left hand. A jagged edge, where the crimson polish had flaked away after she pried open a stubborn container of coffee. Tonight, as she stood there claiming to have just come from Monica's chair, the chip was still there. The exact same chip. The exact same jagged edge. The cuticle growth was identical to the measurement he had mentally noted 3 days ago. Nothing had changed. If she had gone to the salon, the chip would be gone. If she had simply gone to the salon and waited but left without service, she would have complained about the wasted time. But she had lied. She had explicitly stated, "New polish looks good," and she had accepted the compliment. Why lie about a manicure? Grant felt a cold, hard knot form in his stomach. It was the sensation of a system error. A discrepancy in the ledger. He walked to the bottom of the stairs and listened to the sound of the shower running. The water was washing away whatever she had actually been doing for the last 2 hours. He was not a jealous man by nature. Jealousy was an emotion, and emotions were inefficient. But he was a man who required the truth. If the inventory did not match the manifest, you did not ignore it. You investigated. Until you found the source of the loss. He went to the living room and sat in his leather armchair. He picked up a book, but did not read it. His mind was racing, constructing a timeline. Last Tuesday, Sophie came home late, citing a department meeting. Last Friday, Sophie went out for drinks with the nurses, returned at 1 in the morning, smelling of peppermint and rain. But her breath held no hint of the gin she usually drank. He had dismissed these anomalies. But the fingernail, the chipped red polish, it was a small detail. A microscopic variance. Most husbands would not notice. But Grant noticed everything. He pulled his phone from his pocket. He opened the calendar app. He began to look for patterns. Logistics was about patterns. He felt a wave of nausea. He realized, with a sinking certainty, that he was about to audit his own wife. 2 weeks had passed since the incident with the nail polish. Grant had said nothing. He had become a ghost in his own marriage. Observing, recording, analyzing. He was currently sitting in his office, surrounded by screens displaying shipping routes. But on his personal tablet, a different spreadsheet was open. It was a log of Sophie's movements. Tuesday, October 4th. Claim. Dinner with Sarah from Pediatrics. Reality. Grant had attended the hospital Christmas party 4 months ago. He had met the entire pediatrics team. There was a Sarah, but she was a 60-year-old woman who had retired in August. Sophie had mentioned Sarah was having boy trouble. The retired Sarah was a grandmother of 4. Thursday, October 6th. Claim. Extra shift covered for a sick colleague. Reality. Grant had driven past the hospital parking lot on his way home. Her car, a distinctive white sedan, was not in her assigned spot. It was not in the overflow lot. It was nowhere. Grant stared at the spreadsheet. The data was irrefutable. There was a recurring gap in her schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Between 5 in the afternoon and 9 in the evening. He swiveled his chair and looked out the window. He felt like he was losing his mind. Was he the villain here? Was he the paranoid, controlling husband? Maybe she was just shopping. Maybe she simply needed time alone. He wanted to believe that. He desperately wanted to believe that the variance was benign. But then, there was Derek. Derek was Grant's oldest friend. The brother he never had. The best man at their wedding. 3 days ago. Grant had texted Derek, free for a beer on Thursday night? Derek had replied, can't, buddy. Stuck in a regional sales conference in Chicago all week. It was a plausible excuse. But yesterday, while buying a sandwich at a deli across town, Grant had seen a car that looked exactly like Derek's black pickup truck. Turning left. Heading toward the outskirts of the city. Logistics. Required correlation. He looked at his spreadsheet. Thursday nights. Sophie was busy. Thursday nights. Derek was in Chicago. Grant felt the bile rise in his throat. No. That was impossible. Not Derek. Or was that part of the show? Grant slammed his hand down on his desk. He needed to stop speculating. Speculation was for amateurs. He needed hard data. He needed coordinates. He closed the spreadsheet. He needed a tracker. He couldn't just put a tracker on her car. That was beneath him. He needed her to volunteer to be tracked. He needed a Trojan horse. He searched for smartwatches with GPS. He found a model. The Apex Lifeguard. Marketed towards healthcare professionals. It monitored heart rate. And crucially, it had a family safety feature. It was perfect. He ordered it. With expedited shipping. That evening, the house was quiet. Sophie was home early. Grant watched her from the kitchen island. She looked beautiful. He felt a surge of grief so potent it nearly brought him to his knees. He was looking at a stranger. You okay? Sophie asked. You've been staring at the coffee maker for 5 minutes. Grant forced a smile. It felt like stretching old rubber. Just thinking about work. Supply chain issues. Boring, she teased. Yeah, he said. Boring. He walked over and kissed her forehead. He smelled her hair. Vanilla, and something else. Musk? Cologne? He pulled back. I'm going to bed early. Headache. Okay, she said. She didn't ask if he needed anything. She seemed relieved he was leaving the room. Grant walked up the stairs. Each step heavy with the weight of what he was planning. He was going to trap her. He was going to destroy his own life. To find the truth. The package arrived on a Wednesday. Grant sat in his car, holding the sleek white box. He felt like he was holding a grenade. He had prepared the scene. The expensive wine. The fresh pasta. When Sophie walked in, her face registered genuine surprise. What is all this? Just because, Grant said. I feel like I've been distant lately. I wanted to make it up to you. Sophie softened. She walked over and hugged him. Grant held her. Feeling the thrum of her heart against his chest. Is this a guilty heart? he wondered. Does it beat faster when you lie? After dessert, he slid the box across the table. I got you something. Sophie raised an eyebrow. Grant, it's not my birthday. Open it. She undid the ribbon. The apex? Grant, these are insanely expensive. You work yourself to death, Grant said, his voice steady. I worry about you. This monitors everything. I want you to take care of yourself. She took the watch out. It's beautiful. It connects to my phone too, Grant added casually. It has a safety feature. Since you're walking to the parking garage late at night, it would make me feel better if I knew you were safe. There was a microsecond of hesitation. A flicker in her eyes. Grant saw it. He catalogued it. Then, she smiled. That's really sweet. Logistics, he shrugged. Risk management. She put it on. She synced it. She accepted the invite to the family group. There, she said. Now you can watch my heart rate spike when Dr. Evans yells at me. I love you, Sophie, Grant said. He wanted to see if she could say it back, while wearing the device that would end her. I love you too, she said. It sounded easy. Practiced. The first few days were torture. Grant checked the app obsessively. Everything was normal. Grant began to feel a creeping sense of shame. Perhaps he was wrong. He almost deleted the app on Tuesday morning. Stop it, he told himself. Trust her. But he didn't delete it. He was a manager. He needed a larger sample size. Then came Thursday. October 20th. Grant was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Hey. Leaving the hospital a bit early. Going to grab coffee with Jessica. And then hit the salon again. Monica messed up the clear coat last time. Be home around 8. Grant stared at the phone. The meeting room fell silent around him. He stood up. I need a moment. He walked out. He went to his office and closed the door. His heart was hammering. He opened the Apex app. The map loaded. He looked for the blue dot. It was not at the hospital. It was not at the salon downtown. The dot was stationary. It was located on the far west side of the city. In an industrial district. Grant zoomed in. He pinched the screen. The address was 4400 West Colfax Avenue. He opened Google Maps. Street view loaded. It was not a coffee shop. It was not a salon. It was a low-rise building. With peeling turquoise paint. And a flickering neon sign that read, The Oasis Motel. Rates. By the hour. Grant felt the air leave the room. The blue dot was sitting right in the middle of the motel complex. And it had been there. For 45 minutes. Grant did not remember walking to the elevator. He did not remember getting into his car. He was operating on autopilot. A machine executing a final, destructive command. He drove. The rush hour traffic was building, but he wove through it with a reckless precision. He was a man who never sped. Today. He was driving like a man fleeing a crime scene. Or rushing. Toward one. His phone sat on the passenger seat. The app was still open. The blue dot had not moved. Maybe she was kidnapped, his mind offered. A desperate, illogical plea. But the heart rate monitor on the app told a different story. Current heart rate, 115. Status, active. She wasn't hurt. She wasn't sleeping, she was elevated. Grant gripped the steering wheel. He knew what a heart rate of 115 meant. He reached the outskirts of the city. He saw the sign ahead. The Oasis. He didn't pull into the lot. He parked across the street. Hidden behind a rusted dumpster. But he had a clear line of sight to the motel rooms. Room 8. Grant scanned the parking lot. There were only 3 cars. A beat-up sedan. A cleaning cart. And a black pickup truck. Grant felt a physical blow to his chest. He recognized the truck. He recognized the custom decal on the rear window. Derek. It was real. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a glitch. His wife. His best friend. Grant looked at his phone. The blue dot was right on top of room 8. He picked up his phone. He needed to hear it. He needed to hear the lie. One last time. He dialed. It rang 3 times. Hello? Sophie's voice. Breathless. Slightly high-pitched. Hey, Grant said. His voice sounded hollow. Just checking in. You at the salon? Yeah, Sophie said. Just got in the chair. Monica is soaking my cuticles. It's so loud in here, sorry if I cut out. Grant looked at the silent motel room. There was no sound. Just the desolate wind blowing trash across the parking lot. Busy day? Grant asked. Insane, she said. But I'm relaxing now. What about you? Heading home? Not exactly. Where are you? Grant watched the door of room 8. I'm looking for something I lost. I thought I knew where it was, but now I'm not sure. What did you lose? Sophie asked. He could hear a rustling sound. A bedsheet? My sense of direction, Grant said. You're weird, Grant, she laughed. A nervous, flighty laugh. Look, Monica is coming back. I gotta go. Love you. Sophie, Grant said. Yeah? Is Derek in town? Silence. A heavy, thick silence that stretched for 5 seconds. Derek? Sophie asked, her voice tight. I don't know. Isn't he in Chicago? Why? Just wondering, Grant said. I thought I saw his truck. You're imagining things, Sophie said quickly. He's in Chicago. Look, I really have to go. Okay, Grant said. Bye. She hung up. Grant lowered the phone. Tears were streaming down his face. Hot and humiliating. He wiped them away angrily. He was not going to cry for them. He looked at the app again. There was a feature he had explained to Sophie on the first night. The Find Device feature. It emitted a piercing, high-decibel siren sound. Grant looked at the door of room 8. He placed his finger on the button labeled Activate Alarm. Grant pressed the button. Instantaneously. He heard it. Even from across the street. Weep. 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 It was a digital scream. Relentless. Grant watched the door of room 8. He saw the curtains twitch. The sound continued. It was designed to be impossible to ignore. Weep. 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 Suddenly. The door of room 8 flew open. Derek stumbled out first. He was wearing jeans but no shirt. He looked frantic. Looking around wildly for the source of the noise. Then Sophie appeared. She was wearing her scrubs, but they were disheveled. She was clutching her wrist, frantically tapping at the watch face. Make it stop, she screamed. Take it off. Derek yelled. Just take the damn thing off. Sophie fumbled with the clasp. The watch fell to the concrete pavement. The beeping continued, echoing off the asphalt. Grant slowly opened his car door. He stepped out. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He walked across the street. With the measured, deliberate gait of a man inspecting a warehouse floor. Derek looked up. He froze. Oh God, Derek mouthed. His face drained of color. Sophie looked up. When she saw Grant, she didn't scream. She collapsed. It was as if her strings had been cut. Grant stopped 10 feet away from them. The watch was still shrieking on the ground. Weep. Weep. Grant, Derek stammered. He held his hands up. Grant, listen, man. It's not. Grant looked at Derek. He looked at the friend he had bought rounds for. The man who had given a toast about loyalty. At his wedding. Chicago looks different this time of year, Grant said. His voice was calm. Terrifyingly calm. Grant, please, Sophie sobbed. She took a step toward him. Please, let me explain. It was a mistake. A mistake, Grant repeated. He looked at the watch on the ground. A mistake is a rounding error. A mistake is a typo. This. He gestured to the motel. This is a logistical operation. This required planning, coordination, deceit. I'm sorry, Derek choked out. Grant ignored him. He looked at Sophie. He looked at her hands. The red nail polish. You never went to the salon, Grant said. For weeks. I knew, I just needed the data. You tracked me. Sophie whispered. You gave me that watch. To track me? I gave you the watch to keep you safe, Grant said coldly. And now? I know exactly where you are. He looked at his left hand. The gold band on his ring finger felt heavy, like a shackle. He pulled it off. He held it up. The gold glinted in the fading sunlight. 3 years. 8 months. 14 days, Grant said. That is the duration of this contract. He tossed the ring. He didn't throw it at her. He didn't throw it at Derek. He tossed it onto the roof of the motel. It made a small clink as it hit the gutter and vanished. Grant! Sophie screamed. Grant turned his back on them. Grant, don't walk away. Derek yelled. Grant kept walking. He got in his car. He locked the doors. He watched them in the rearview mirror. Sophie on her knees. Derek looking like a confused child. The watch was still beeping on the ground. A relentless alarm. A riem, signaling the end of the world. Grant put the car in drive. He checked the time. 6:22. He was going to be home. In time to pack. The divorce had been efficient. Grant had treated it like a business merger dissolution. He provided the logs. The GPS data. There was no arguing with the data. Sophie had tried to fight. But the shame was too great. Derek was gone. Moved to another state. Grant had sold the house. He couldn't live in the museum of his failure. He was sitting in a coffee shop on a rainy Saturday morning. He was checking the logistics for a shipment of steel beams. He looked up and saw her. Sophie was standing in line. She looked different. Older. Worn. She was alone. She turned and saw him. The coffee shop noise faded. For a moment. It was just the two of them. The recorder. And the subject. Sophie's lips parted. She took a tentative half-step toward him. Her eyes filled with a sudden, desperate hope. Grant looked at her. He remembered the smell of the motel. He remembered the lie. He remembered the sound of the alarm. He felt a ghost of the old pain. But it was distant now. Dull. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He simply nodded once. A brief, acknowledging nod. The kind you give to a vendor you no longer do business with. Then, he looked back down at his tablet. He scrolled to the next row on his spreadsheet. The steel beams were on schedule. The variance was 0. He heard the bell on the door jingle. When he looked up again, she was gone. Grant took a sip of his black coffee. It was the perfect temperature. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.